The news that the moderate, I use the term very loosely, Benny Gantz has just resigned from the Israeli war cabinet may not necessarily be good news. In his place, Ben Gvir, the extremist, wants to have a seat, and that small cabinet, says Ben Gvir, has led Israel until now while excluding and dividing senior ministers in the government. No more. Now, with their retirement, there's no longer an excuse for boycotting and excluding coalition partners and senior ministers. As a minister in the government, chairman of a party, and senior partner in the coalition, I hereby demand to join this cabinet in order to be a partner in determining Israel's security policy in current times. It's time to make brave decisions. Gantz's decision to leave the government is important and correct, but the problem really is what happens next. And this is all against the backdrop of the first release of hostages by the IDF, but equally a revival in the deaths of Palestinian civilians, and an astonishing number. So the numbers which are being quoted in the West are quite modest, and have been quite modest, and the BBC is being very cautious about what it says. But if you go to, for example, the Turkish newspaper Sabbah, the story is quite different and quite terrifying. Initially, it says the Palestinian health minister announced 274 people have died in the last 24 hours. To start with, it was 600 and it was 283 now, with 698 injured. But there are three, I think, four refugee camps. Nusrayat Multiji camp, where which was the first camp attacked, and there seemed to be 210 who died there, 400 injured at initial reports. The Inside Gaza media office talks about the military attack by Israel and the deaths and injuries that took place then. But then three other camps were attacked in the process of releasing the hostages: Deir el-Bala, el-Barushi, and el-Meghazi, leading to this astronomical number of deaths. At the same time, there was an attack on the Kuwaiti hospital, which had already been emptied. It's now burning. That means in Rafah there are no functioning hospitals. So even if medics collect the wounded and the dying, there is no treatment available for them. And senior doctors from the Kuwaiti hospital say there's many injured and dead on the street, but they cannot reach them. And it's against that backdrop of a revival of the Israeli attacks after the UN censure, and after the demand for more Palestinians to move from one part of this enclosed area to another part. There's 2.4 million displaced people in Gaza. This is a humanitarian catastrophe, and it's surely the time now to listen to people like Humza Yousaf, who has relatives there, who says Britain should be offering the injured hospital treatment. We should be offering to take these injured people into our hospitals. This is about a humanitarian collapse, and it's about our responsibility as civilized countries who offer shelter and asylum. Or do we not do that now? Are we not in the business of asylum anymore since Suella Braverman dictated that you can't come to Britain by almost any safe or legal route and claim asylum, because there are no safe and legal routes, or very few? Isn't it time to open a safe and legal route for victims of this campaign And we should hear from the Labour leader what he intends to do. Is he going to open up safe and legal routes so that people who have been so badly injured, who are facing so little hope, can have hope from us? I think it's a matter of our duty to be helping these people, not just simply to be shoveling in aid if and when we can get it, but to take people out. And I think we should be putting on pressure to Israel to similarly be opening those gates around Gaza to injured and dying civilians. This is about human duty. It's not about illegal or war aims. Even in a state of war, you treat the wounded on both sides. That is what that is what a field hospital does, and the Israelis don't seem to be doing this. Now, of course, there may be exaggerations. The number of dead who are reported here comes from the Palestinian health minister, presumably in Gaza, and that's Hamas controlled. But nevertheless, there are photographs and they are harrowing. And we cannot sit back and shrug and say, oh, well, let them get on with it, because you can't turn a blind eye in the same way as we can't turn a blind eye to the miseries that are happening in Ukraine. So the fact that Benny Ganz has announced his resignation and has called upon Netanyahu to set a date for elections, do not let our nation tear apart, he says. In one sense, that's a positive. In another sense, it's what fills that void. Because a lot more power for Ben Gvir. He doesn't need very much time to exploit his advantage and to bolster Netanyahu's pugilism.